welcome you to our weekly press conference. Today we want to talk a little bit about the criminal justice system, particularly probation and parole. You know, the North Carolina Division of Community Corrections has on its website its mission statement, and its mission statement says that our mission is to protect the safety of the citizens in our communities throughout the state by providing viable alternatives and meaningful supervision to offenders placed in our custody. Well, I think everybody, as a result of reading the reports that we've seen from the News and Observer, knows that the Division of Community Corrections has failed in that mission, and the people of North Carolina has suffered as a result. I mean, the statistics are fairly clear. Over 500, almost 600 of our citizens killed by convicted criminals on probation that were supposed to be supervised by the Division of Community Corrections. Approximately 14,000 of these criminals who were placed on probation who have been, quote, lost, end quote, to the system. That is nothing but failure. Now, the governor has appointed a new head of the Department of Corrections and has appointed an interim head of the Division of Community Corrections. But beyond that, I don't know that we've seen any action take place. We're here today to announce two things that we think need to be done. The first has to do with a bill that we're going to be introducing today, if we can get it out of bill typing, and you've got a copy of the draft of the bill. When someone is convicted of a criminal offense, the judge has various options. Many offenses provide for the possibility of an active sentence. In many instances, what the judge will do is will tell the criminal that, okay, we're not going to send you to prison, we're going to place you on probation as an alternative to prison. So in exchange for not being locked up, the individual has certain conditions placed on them. Well, one of those conditions should be that that individual is subject to reasonable searches, warrantless searches, by any law enforcement officer. Presently, the rules generally apply that a supervising probation officer can conduct a warrantless search of an individual that the officer supervises, but does not allow for any law enforcement officer to conduct a similar warrantless search. And in fact, we appear to have such a bureaucratic situation in North Carolina that in some instances our probation supervisors don't want their probation officers searching criminals. The News and Observer, again, and I commend them for their reporting on this, indicated or revealed the plight of Officer Mark Hornsby here in North Carolina, who just trying to do his job knew of a probationer that was involved in drug activity, conducted a search of that individual, and rather than being commended for doing that, after apparently finding some contraband, was actually reprimanded by his supervisor because the probationer was not someone that was under his specific charge. So this statute would allow, will make it clear that any probation officer can conduct a warrantless search of any person that is on probation, and any sworn law enforcement officer can conduct a similar warrantless search. We need to do this to protect the public. As most people in law enforcement will tell you, that when people commit violent crimes and they come before the court, it's usually not the first time they've been there. So this is a way to address our growing criminal problem, our growing crime problem. The other thing that it will do, we continue to hear from the bureaucracy that we don't have enough probation officers. Well, if we allow sworn law enforcement officers to also help supervise these probationers by being able to conduct these warrantless searches, it will help us keep track of these convicted criminals. The second thing that we're asking to be done can be done immediately, and we're asking Governor Perdue, and we're asking the interim director of the Division of Community Corrections to immediately put on the state website information about these 14,000 lost probationers. We would understand that they know their names, they should know their last known address, and they should have a picture of every one of them. They should post that information on the website with a hotline asking the citizens of North Carolina to call in if they know the whereabouts of any of these people. We should see, I would think, a lot of public participation, and I think we can reduce the number of so-called lost probationers to a more manageable number. But we need to make sure that we keep track of what the bureaucrats are doing in this regard. So I call on Mr. Moose, the interim director of Division of Community Corrections, to on a weekly basis report to the press and report to the public on the exact number of lost probationers. My office tried yesterday on a number of occasions to get a number from the Division of Community Corrections as to how many folks were lost in the system, and we could not get an answer out of them. I'm not sure exactly why, but the public needs to know, the public needs to be protected. We're calling on these two things to be done as soon as possible. Obviously, they can get the website up without any legislation. We have today's, we are sending a letter to Governor Perdue. You've got a copy of the letter that's being sent to her, asking her to back the bill and asking her to move forward with information on the website. At this point, I'll turn it over to Representative Stan.